guys, and welcome to Beyond the Whistle with me, Matty K. And in a week where John Cena finally retires from WWE and the players leave for AFCON, one person that isn't going anywhere, it's Grace Wild.
Hello. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, it's me again.
How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Nearly Christmas. Very exciting. Are you ready? Are you prepared, Matty?
I was prepared about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm so impressed. I'm nowhere near prepared.
But it's all done. It's all wrapped. It's all good. I did have a cheat code this year because I got them bags where you drop it in and then just pull the string rather than wrapping up presents. Have you seen them?
What like what like JD bags, like old school JD
No,
bags?
no. Off camera, I'll show you because these won't care. But you drop it in a bag and then you just pull the string and it's done. It's
Hey,
yeah. It comes in like a ribbon. So you pull the ribbon, it seals the bag, and then you just put a little bow on it. Honestly, lifesaver.
I need to invest.
TikTok
I,
shop
I
and
I must
all stuff like
invest.
all over the place. I'm surprised you haven't seen them.
No.
Yeah, quality. So that's
Uh,
saved me a lot of time.
well, I need to do that next year because I am nowhere near prepared.
Well, doing that, it just means I've got more time to watch the football.
Well, there you go. I mean, to be fair, I put off Christmas related stuff so I can watch the football. So, to be honest, it doesn't really change anything for me.
Oh, did you get to see much football this week?
I got to watch absolutely nothing on Saturday, but I did watch pretty much everything on Sunday. I had West Ham on the TV. I had the multi-view on my iPad. I was basically soccer Saturday. It was brilliant.
To be fair, I think Saturday was pretty quiet. Well, there was only 3 games, wasn't there, on Saturday? I think.
Yeah. And in comparison, it's sort of Sunday and Monday that took the headlines in terms of games.
Yeah, that's true. Should we talk about the first game of the week then? It was Chelsea Everton, wasn't it? Chelsea 2, Everton nil. What do you think? You seen much of the game?
I think it was a very flattering scoreline for Chelsea, if I'm honest with you. I think when I saw that, I thought, oh, okay, maybe Chelsea are back on track. Can they salvage something from their title charge? You know, I still don't think they're completely out of it. I think they've put themselves on the peripherals, but I still don't think they're completely out of it. But then I saw the highlights and the performance, and I think Everton just couldn't hit the target. And that really frustrated me as a neutral because they had brilliant opportunities. But you can't knock Chelsea took their chances and they won 2-0.
Yeah, you've smashed that. To be fair, Everton did have chances, and the scoreline could have been a lot closer than what it was. They probably could have got something out of the game if they'd just put the ball in the back of the net. But it was that simple. They just didn't. They weren't as clinical as what Chelsea was. Cole Palmer made a return. What do you think to his performance?
I thought, look, I don't want to give a proper performance analysis because I think there's a lot of stuff you don't see in highlights. Um, so for me, I can only go off of he got a good goal. You know, it was a decent goal. It was classic Palmer. I am one of those people that I think because I don't support a top six club, I want the best players in the league to be performing consistently. Because as a neutral, I want to be watching the best players in the world, you know, in the best league in the world, playing the best football, you know. And so I'm pleased to see him back. I think he is not a necessity for Chelsea anymore. I think he previously was. He could be that little edge towards the sort of Champions League spots, title charge area. I think he could be that little push that Chelsea maybe need. But yeah, it's good to see him back. Good to see him on the score sheet as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask how important do you think he is to Chelsea? Because there was in a bit of a slump, weren't they? They went 4 games without a win, and Cole Palmer comes back. And I'm not saying Cole Palmer was responsible for the Chelsea win, but do you think he does make an impact into the squad?
Yeah, I think he's the type of player that always makes an impact in the squad. I don't think he's as much of a backbone as he has been previously. I think he is a little bit more of a sort of what do you call him?
He elevates players around
Like
him.
a yes. I think he brings performances himself. He elevates the players around him. That's a great way to describe him. He brings confidence. He brings calmness. That's the one thing I think about with Cole Palmer, as I know so many people talk about, you know, his deadpan expressions and things like that, but it's calm. You know, it's not over erratic. It's not emotional. It's so calm. and he's come from a background of winning. He's come through an academy of a team who win, and I think that's always a good player to have playing consistently. Um, Bit of a luxury player though, if I'm honest. At the moment, I think Chelsea are all right without him. I'm not saying they would be up there going for the title without him, but I think they do fine without him. But like I say, I think the addition of a luxury player like that who can elevate the players around him, who can pull something out of the bag, is only going to make them better. So if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm feeling all right at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chelsea got that squad depth, haven't they? So if he drops out, they've got enough rotation. But a big talking point was Maresca's post-game comments. Did you see them?
I didn't. I was very interested in this when you mentioned it. What
Okay,
have I missed?
so he basically came out and I think a journalist had questioned something, and then he had said something along the lines of basically people were doubting Maresca and something like silencing the doubters and stuff like that. But it seemed to me like it was a bit of a jab at the higher ups at Chelsea. I don't know whether they're being called in for Maresca to maybe a change or something like that. But it's quite, what's the word? It was quite like descriptive. It's sort of, you know what I mean? It was quite hard to work out who he was pointing these comments at. I think we've sort of narrowed it
Mm-hmm.
down to it can't be the fans because I don't think the fans dislike Maresca. It can't be the players because the players do seem to be playing for him. Wouldn't imagine it to be the media because the media haven't really scrutinised him that much. So it's only got to be the higher ups. So it was a bit of an odd one, really. So I think it's going to be. I think it was asked today what the relationship was, and he said four words, and he said it's okay, it's good. So I was like, that doesn't sound brilliant. So again, it's a bit sort of up in the air at the minute.
No.
I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of that. It was a bit odd.
Yeah, that's not really going to give the fans reassurance that things aren't bubbling away internally. Um, yeah, I didn't see them, so I can't really comment on it. But I think I for a long time I've thought that Chelsea job's been a bit of a poison chalice. I think it's hard to succeed when there is so much expectation alongside a squad that changes every 5 seconds. There's so many options. Are they quality options? Things like that. I think they're starting to get a rhythm. I personally really like Maresco. I think he's a tactician. I think he's not just a manager, he's a coach as well. I think he really makes a difference. And some of his tactical changes you can't fault. Um, so yeah, that is an interesting one actually.
It is, especially because I don't think he's been that bad for Chelsea. He's got them stable. They're fighting for top four. You know what I mean? He's won two trophies with them. So, yeah, a bit of an odd one, really. But should we talk about the
Yeah, very strange.
next game? It was Liverpool 2, Brighton nil. I think we was all quite looking forward to this to see what happened with the Salah saga. He was benched. He did come on for Joe Gomez in around about the 30th minute due to injury. Did you get to see much of the game?
No, only the highlights for this one. I'm afraid I was in London when this was being played.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll sort of again, I've seen extended highlights of it, but unbelievable start with STK scoring what we thought would be the quickest goal of the weekend. I think we'll get to that later on. But yeah, two goals
Mhm.
to TK. But again, this is another game where Brighton missed a lot of chances.
Yeah, it was another frustrating one. One of those ones where the sort of underdog let the big boy a bit off easy. Similar to Everton and Chelsea. Yeah, Brighton chances. They definitely should have taken the opportunities that they had. Um, but to be fair, again, you can sit here and you can say they should have taken their chances. Liverpool did, or Ekatike did. I mean, one of those finishes, I think it was the first goal, the really early one. Um, Positioning was brilliant, just ready to pounce. So, that is what you want him to do. Two really different finishes for Ekatike, but absolutely critical finishes. They were so clinical. And he's on a bit of form now. He is, I imagine, a little bit more confident in himself. And look, that can only be good news for Liverpool.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you about this because obviously we spoke about Liverpool and their spending in the summer, and I think maybe they overdid it and caused themselves a little bit of a problem, especially with the STK and the Isak debate. What's your thoughts on this? Because I mean, it's quite hard for Isak. to start or get a place in the squad when STK is on this form that he's in. With Gakpo being injured and Salah going to AFCON, maybe there's an opportunity to play both at the same time there. But I don't know, what's your thoughts on it?
I think honestly, that is one of those issues that top level managers have to deal with. You know, if you look at the teams around them, they have similar problems. You know, we've seen City sides with unbelievable depth, and you're thinking, how is he going to handle that? And the quality of Pep has meant that his rotation and his use of players in the incredible amount of games they have per season. I think that is one of those things that top level managers just deal with, and they find the time, they find the right. You know, who's going to play in Europe? Is it going to be the same person that starts in the Premier League? Is one going to be subbed off at the 70th minute to add fresh legs every single game? You know, how are you going to rotate them? It's a nice problem to have. You know, you're sat here talking to a West Ham fan. I'd love that problem. But right now, I think Ekatike for me gets that edge because he's proven how clinical he is. His position in it, you know, and I can't say I watch him consistently, but particularly for the goals he has scored, his positioning's been brilliant. He has done everything that I would want Ekatike to do. And so for me, Isak is not he's not getting ahead of him at the moment. That doesn't mean he doesn't play. It just means he plays in a you know, in just a different way, whether that's different games, different timing, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it's that's a tough one. That's a tough one that only top level managers can tell you how to deal with.
It does feel like a very luxury problem to have, doesn't it? But I think sort of the idea I was coming to is you spend all that money on Isak, they're going to have to start him at some point. Well, they don't have to, but you know what I mean. The higher ups and the board will probably be saying we've spent all this money, he's not starting. So I think the questions will be raised. Does it cause a little bit of a problem for Liverpool, and does it disturb the sort of rhythm? But like I said, with Salah going away and Gakpo being injured, there might be an opportunity there to switch things around. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, we spoke last week about
Yeah.
the Salah saga. Obviously came on, did get the assist from taking the corner. What was your thoughts on this, on the whole Salah thing? Obviously he's gone to AFCON now. Do we wait and see what happens with the January move, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's a timing thing. I think he would have been frustrated because I think there was a few opportunities the other day that he old salad berries and I think it's potentially a confidence thing. It could be a you know a frustration issue, you know, frustration being pushed into how he finishes. You know, you don't know the minds of these incredible footballers, but the smallest thing can alter that. And I think it's a timing thing. I think he's got to see how AFCON goes. I think he's got to see how that distance, you know, like we mentioned last week, how that distance between him and Liverpool is going to affect things. You know, do they sort of sweep it under the carpet and forget it ever happened when he comes back? It's dependent on how long they're in AFCON. You know, there's so many variables. And I think it's a saga that's going to go on for a little while. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's just a wait and see. He did sort of clap the fans and wave them off in a certain way, which maybe people are reading too much into it. But yeah, again, it's just I think his performance wise is a confidence thing. Obviously, he hasn't played many minutes as well recently, so there's that sort of conversation to have. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think one person that is no lack of confidence, sorry, is Harry Wilson.
Oh, Harry Wilson. Oh, I mean, I think I said it last week. He's such a luxury, like he's just a feast for the eyes for football fans. I think he's really not scared to go for things. And I love it. I love the sort of blind naivety, and he just goes for it, has a crack at it, and sort of 2 out of 10 times he does it, he absolutely scores a screamer, and it's a delight. I'm very jealous of Fulham having someone like him.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. I mean, Burnley 2, Fulham 3. It was. I don't really know how to feel about this one. I want to talk about Burnley's defence compared to last season. I mean, I know last season was in the Championship. It's different worlds, but they just can't not concede goals, can they? Compared to last season, where there was one of the best defensive teams. Obviously, this does it go to show the calibre? between Premier League and Championship?
The difference between the Premier League and the Championship, because we've seen it quite a lot recently. I believe, if I remember rightly, teams coming up reliant on this defensive record that they have in the Championship, and it is just a different gravy in the Premier League. You come up against teams who have so much to give in an attacking sense, and that's why for me, Sunderland are doing so well because they can outscore you, because they have thought about going forward. They are not so heavily reliant on sitting back and just trying to absorb pressure. It's just such a way I just would not go about it. It's the easier way because you're confident in your defence, but that's where Sunderland did so well is they added to that. You know, they upgraded. They added someone level-headed. Sorry, I'm bringing Sunderland up. They added someone level-headed in midfield who just brings that balance together, and that is something that Burnley for me just did not do. They concentrated on the fact that they could defend. It's a nice thing to have, but realistically, it's not something that's going to pull you through a Premier League season. You are going to come unstuck. The quality is insane at points in comparison to the Championship. It was just, it's the wrong thing to rely on, in my opinion.
Yeah, do you think that is the problem then? Because obviously Burnley have been struggling to score at Turf Moor and they're conceding way too many goals. So yeah, you probably nailed it there. I think that is the problem with Burnley, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a really tough season for Burnley, and I was worried that this might happen, that they would be too reliant on that confidence in their defence. And I think they've brought in like Carl Walker, who is a really, really experienced defender, but he just doesn't really have the legs anymore. And that's the reason he's not at a top club anymore. And I just think, when you think of Burnley going forward, obviously names pop into my head, but that's only because I am somebody who watches football consistently. Whereas Sunderland, there's multiple goal scorers I can think of. I just don't see that with Burnley. They haven't upgraded enough in an attacking sense.
Yeah, I know this is going to sound a bit left field, but we was looking at when we used to have Marcus Edwards at Tottenham, and then we let him go. And while he was away at his other club, he looked quality, but he just can't seem to get in that Burnley side, which is odd because you know what I mean. They are lacking creativity, they're lacking goals, and I don't know because I've not, like I say, I've not really watched Marcus Edwards much since he came to Burnley, but he can't seem to get in the squad, which is a shame. But we'll talk about Fulham because they were incredible, weren't they? I mean, Harry Wilson just ran it start to finish, and his form just is unbelievable. I mean, like what's his ceiling?
I I would really worry for someone like Harry Wilson making a bigger move because I think he's the type of player who absolutely thrives at a club like Fulham. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just think sometimes I was having this conversation with somebody about Mbuemo at United. He's gone there and sort of hit the ground running, but that is quite rare in many situations. Coming from a team who you play really really well for Brentford, then going to United and all the pressure and the difference in playing style and expectation in fans, that is something to hit the ground running there. And I just think sometimes people make these big moves and they're all of a sudden they're a sort of big fish in a big pond rather than a big fish in a small pond. Um, and that's what I would worry about with Harry Wilson. I think he has this creative freedom and this lack of expectation at Fulham. I think he loves playing his football at Fulham. You can just tell, like he just has that license to do what he needs to do, and that's why he scores the goals that he does. But I would honestly worry about him going elsewhere. Because if you think about the times in his career when we've seen him at his best, the two times I can think of are Fulham and when he was on loan at Derby. So he obviously thrives in that sort of situation. So, for me, there's no ceiling, but I do worry for players like that not hitting the ground running and then their confidence gets knocked and then it has a real effect on the latter stages of their career.
Yeah, Fulham as well. The kind of it's like a chilled out club in it. You know what I mean? There's not much expectation on them, especially with Marco Silva. They're pretty much guaranteed to stay up every season anyway. There's just they pay good wages as well by all accounts. So it's nice and chilled in it. It's in London, nice wages. There's not really much pressure, so
Yeah.
he's got a bit of freedom there, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I just think they are the classic, what you call a mid-table Prem team, where they just are pretty consistently mid-table. And, it's not a bad place to be. Obviously, they have those moments where they could surge and they could potentially get themselves a European spot, at points, but they're not consistent enough. And you're right, it's just chill. It's just chill. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to Fulham at all, because I just think that consistency is hard enough in the Premier League. It's hard enough to stay that consistent in a team that wants to throw you into a relegation battle every now and again. Did I say team or league there? I meant league. Um, so yeah, it's a complicated one, but I'm currently enjoying watching the quality of Harry Wilson at Fulham because I think he is a big fish in a small pond.
100%. Whereas someone that is, well, I say flirting with relegation, I think it's pretty much certain they are going to go down in it. Is Wolves. Arsenal 2, Wolves 1. Wolves scoring all three goals and still don't win the game. It's quite unbelievable, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a mad one because I wasn't watching it. I was just watching the scoreline come through. And when Arsenal set off, you do expect. I mean, I think I predicted 3-0 Arsenal, and I think I was being kind there. Because Arsenal at the Emirates, they can absolutely take you for a ride. Um, but I was shocked when it was all of a sudden 1-1. And yeah, literally Wolves scored every single goal. And look, at the end of the day, in title runs, sometimes you got to ride your luck. Sometimes you do. This does not necessarily mean, oh God, the title's going for them. It's not the greatest sign that they're playing bottom of the league and they can't win. Bottom of the league at home and they can't win pretty comfortably. That is a worrying sign for me. Um, but like I said, you have to ride your luck sometimes. And Wolves look better. Wolves did look better than they have done previously.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they didn't look that bad to be fair. And I mean, obviously, yeah, they do score two own goals. I, without them, I do think Arsenal still get something out of the game. Which I know that sounds mad to say, but I do think they would have broken Wolves down anyway. Do feel a bit harsh for Wolves. I do
Mm-hmm.
feel like they deserved a draw because they did play fairly decent. But I do think Arsenal should be worried a little bit. Like you say, they're at home. They should be turning Wolves over pretty comfortably, and they had to rely on two own goals. So, yeah, do you think they should be looking over the shoulders? Bit concerned.
Yeah, 100% they should. And this is the issue that I found with Arsenal and the fans. They can sometimes run away with it and they get a bit cocky and I'm not saying all fans, I know some really nice Arsenal fans, but a lot of the time on social media and when you see those videos of post-match interviews around the stadium and all that sort of stuff, you just think, okay, calm it down. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You need to calm it down. There is the likes of City who can go on those, you know, 10 game streaks of wins and cause you massive issues. And you can end up dropping points to the likes of Sunderland and the likes of Villa. And, they do have to be worried because for me, you always have to be worried in the Premier League. And that's something I always respected Pep for, was he never thought the league was done until it was done. And that, we mention all the time with Arsenal, the bottle. Have they got the bottle for it? Can they hold on? Have they got the nerve? And I think the professionalism, the nerve, all of that plays such a big part in that title run. Um, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. They have the tendency to slip up. They have. They also have in the back of their mind, and I think this is a massive thing, that they have been in this position before and lost it. And I think that is something that psychologically is going to nibble at you, even if you don't want it to. It is going to nibble at you, and losing games like they did to Villa and not having comfortable wins against the likes of Wolves at home, they are going to have that psychological effect. So yeah, 100%, 100%. They should not even be thinking about being in first place at this point. It's about taking every game as it comes, getting 3 points in as many opportunities as you can, and seeing where you are.
Yeah, we have seen this before, haven't we? Like you said with Arsenal, where they do tend to have a very good start and they go running away with it, and Man City sort of take that steady climb, and then when it gets to about December, January time, Arsenal do have a dip, and then Man City just take off. So yeah, I think we have seen this before. But one thing I wanted to ask you about was Gyökeres. So when they first signed Gyökeres, I was like, they've nailed it. Like that is the one position that they needed to get nailed. They've got a striker in. He's going to score goals because the team's
Mhm.
just so creative. It's just not quite clicking for him though, is it? What's your thoughts on this?
This is what I mean by hitting the ground running. It's so you cannot you just cannot say, oh, he's going to come in and he's going to be brilliant with real. Like you could have the feeling, 100%. You can say that's a great signing. He's going to go on and do brilliant things, but there's no guarantees. There is no guarantees, and he just hasn't hit the ground running. And I just, in a weird way, I almost feel like Arsenal have been without a striker for so long in terms of being that front man, being that main man, that number nine who scores you 20, 25 goals a season. They're almost not used to having one. And sometimes I feel like the way in which they go about their game, it isn't in a way that is going to enhance Gyökeres. It's not in it's almost in the back of their mind that they have to do it without a striker. Whereas City, you feel like, and you know, we'll talk about City in a bit when they scored their goals. Haaland, I think, got two. I think one of them was a penalty, but particularly his first goal, you just think that is training ground. That is just rinse and repeat, knowing he's going to be in that position. That is registering that Haaland is going to be there, so I'm going to put the ball into that space. And I just don't feel that link with Arsenal and their attackers and Gyökeres.
Maybe that's a style of play sort of thing though, because my Haaland's like a very vocal point of Man City's squad, whereas Arsenal are so used to passing it around and passing it into the back of the net. Maybe they're not looking for that pinpoint person at the top. But well, look, we spoke about them, so we'll jump to it. Palace nil, Man City three. Personally, I do think Man City are just going to go on and win the league. I do think that sort of mentality for Arsenal, where they've been in this position before. It's one game to Villa, the struggle against Leeds. Okay, they get the win, but it wasn't convincing. Um, I do think they are going to stumble, and Man City will just take off. But Haaland and Foden, oh my God, they're just unstoppable, aren't they?
Oh, it's a delight. It's a when them two get going, and I think Haaland is just delightful to watch anyway as a number nine. But when you watch someone like Phil Foden in the depths of where he's been, I think in the last sort of year or so, and seeing him thrive now and doing what he does best, it's incredible what confidence does. And I think he he runs the show. You know, we've said this so many times. He can go missing. There's no doubt he can go missing in important games, in even less important games where he's not having the impact that you want him to have. But in games where he grabs the game by the scruff of the neck, he runs it. And I think you're right. I think City. This was a big one. This felt like a big test because Palace are not easy, particularly at home. Um, in my notes before the game, I said this is a big test for City. Have they got the bottle to really take this title on, and really chase Arsenal down for it? And honestly, they answered my question with a resounding yes. They looked dominant. I think Palace had their opportunities, but I just I just think some of the football they play is just so classy. Um, I just think it was a massive, massive 3 points for City.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Phil Foden, he had that sort of dip in he, and he wasn't really starting games, and he was sat on the bench and stuff like that. But I think he is back to his best, and the look quality. I mean, you've got Reinders in there, that Cherksky's Cherk. Hang on,
Ryan Cherky, yeah.
there we go, Ryan Cherky. Um, yeah, he's chipping in with stuff as well, and I mean, Doc, who they've just lost to an injury, I think it came out today, is going to be out till at least January now, which is a shame. But they just look
Same.
unbelievable. But I mean, Palace. We'll talk about Palace. I think they're lacking reinforcement, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. And I think the European football is something you have to get used to, and it really does have an effect. You think you think it's just an additional few games and it's not going to have that much. It really does. It affects your league form. It affects those performances. They just, and we always said this as West Ham fans, we just never have the squad depth to take on Europe properly. And that's why I think we succeeded in the Conference League, because it was almost like our B team was good enough to finish teams off in the Conference League, or our 18 in 60 minutes could finish teams off. You could make those changes, give players a rest, all that sort of thing. I don't know. I just think Palace, yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with the fact that they just need reinforcement.
I'm just going through my notifications on my phone here because I leave things throughout the day so I can come back to it. Uh, Oliver Glasner not to extend his contract at Crystal Palace, and he's due to leave, I think. And Palace are now weighing up what options they can go for in the 26-27 season. So it does look like Oliver Glasner is going to leave Crystal Palace and go elsewhere. Do you think this comes as a maybe on the back of the lack of reinforcement that the board has given him? I think if they had backed Glasner and given him what he wanted, I don't know what their issue is with PSR or what wiggle room they've got in the transfer market. But do you think this maybe is why he's not signing on the dotted line, is because of the lack of reinforcement that the board are giving him?
I imagine it's a contributing factor. I imagine he feels there is a ceiling at Palace in terms of what he can do with the squad he's allowed. Um, but who's whispering in his ear? Who's telling him he could go on and do bigger things? Who's telling him he could go on and manage, some really good teams and win European trophies and all that sort of thing? I think there's probably loads of contributing factors. Losing, the likes of Eze is probably a bit of a wake up call in terms of, not that he necessarily needed it, but it was glaring in the face that quality players also feel like there's a ceiling at Palace, also feel like they could go on and do better things. And look, it's ruthless. Being a manager is ruthless, and you've got to do what's right for you. And so I'm not necessarily shocked. I don't think Palace fans will be shocked. Um, I feel disappointed for Palace fans because I think he's a little gem. I think he's a manager that is young and interesting tactically and really modern in the way in which he goes about the game. And I just think it's going to be hard to replace, especially with the quality of football that they've sort of gotten used to.
Yeah, this needs to be where Crystal Palace sort of do a Brighton or a Brentford and they really find that next gem that sort of keeps them going. But with that in mind, there could be a club that Glasner goes to with the form that a certain team is in at the minute. Nottingham 3, Tottenham nil. Anyway, Sunderland 1, Newcastle nil. Should we talk about that one instead? No, we're gonna have to cover it
No,
out.
no, no, no. We are going
Okay.
straight back.
Jesus, all right. I mean, did you see this?
I saw bits of it. I saw bits of it. It was on my multi-view. Um, and it honestly, it looked like Tottenham were not in this game for the majority of the game. That was my view. I thought Forest absolutely controlled it. And yeah, it was the Forest show, and I felt like Tottenham were just watching it happen in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I don't even know where to start with it because Tottenham were so bad, like embarrassingly bad. They just didn't turn up. There was no energy there. They were second to everything, and it looked like we turned a bit of a corner with beating Brentford and Prague in the Champions League. Not convincing wins, but we looked better and we sort of had a bit of a plan. Whereas this was just one of them games. Tottenham seem very 50-50 at the minute, where they either turn up or they just don't turn up at all. And yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you, if you hadn't watched Thomas Frank for the last however many years at Brentford, and he was new to the Premier League, and this was his first season in charge, what would you say his style is?
Oh, that is an excellent question.
That's where I'm sort of going. You wouldn't know. because I can't sort of see what he's trying to do. His game plan at Tottenham seems to be completely different to what it was at Brentford. And I don't know if that's because maybe the teams play differently. So Brentford can be a bit more defensively solid and play on the break, whereas Tottenham are expected to attack more. And I don't know if maybe was it the wrong appointment, maybe did something need to be looked at there. I was quite positive when Thomas Frank came in, but I don't know. There's a few question marks over his style, and I mean, let's not even talk about them transfers. You're 2-0 down, and you're bringing on Ben Davis. Well, what are you doing? Like, there's so many question marks that
Mhm.
we've got, and you've got Tell on the bench, and you're thinking you're 2-0 down, and then you was 3-0 down. Why is he not coming on sooner?
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough one because, we were talking about players making that transition from being in that small pond to the big pond. You could argue it with managers as well, that change in style, the change in intent, the change in, yeah, how you're supposed to go about a game, as Tottenham manager in comparison to Brentford manager, your mindset is so different. Um, Maybe it's just, you know, there is 100% a chance that that's just not his style of play, that he's just never going to succeed at an attacking minded club, where the fans expect attacking football, and he had the facilities to play the way he did at Brentford and it worked so well. But the expectations are so different at Tottenham and at top six clubs. And I fear for him. I fear for him. Because I really like him personally. I really like him as a person. I can't, I'm not going to say, oh, I really like him as a manager because you're right. I can't deny what's glaringly obvious, which is the style of play is all over the gas. Like you can't ignore it. You just can't, even if you love the fella, you can't ignore that things are so up and down at Tottenham. You either get an excellent performance or you get a naff performance. And I don't get it because there were certain points when I was watching the goals back and the defence look at sixes and sevens. I don't even know if they know what they should be doing. Um, yeah, it feels like we could do a whole podcast on Tottenham, to be honest with you.
100%, yeah. I mean, you've sort of just touched on something there actually with the defenders, which I want to sort of come on to. I think all three goals were preventable. The first goal, you can argue it was a mistake on Vicario and it was a mistake by Archie. We could debate that to death. I don't think Vicario
Yeah.
should be playing the ball there. Just send it long. But there's a debate about whether he should be number one goalkeeper in the first place. The second goal, again, probably just poor position and you shouldn't be getting beat from that angle. And the third goal, yeah, all right, it's a screamer from outside the box, but we've conceded so
Mhm.
many goals from outside of the box because they're just not closing them down. We're just too slow to react to everything. Um, and that could get said again about the substitutions that Frank made. But one thing I did wanted to ask again, I'll just go back to these notes I've got on here. Um, did you see that Mickey Van der Ven's come out and done an interview on the overlap today?
No, I have not. I have been completely offline today. I haven't caught up. What has Mickey van der Ven had to say?
Okay, so now I want a different perspective on this because maybe I'm looking at this completely wrong. But he came out and I've not watched the full interview, but the extracts that I have seen, he was talking about Ange Postecoglou and he was defending Ange Postecoglou's tactics. So he initially came out and said how both him and Romero went to Ange and said we need to be more defensively sound when it comes to games because he said we're 1-0 up against Copenhagen, I think it was back then, and we can't just keep attacking. We need to sit back and maybe just go to the low block. And then he got talking about how he was surprised about Ange being sacked and that he didn't think his tactics were all that bad. And I wanted to ask the question: when Frank's in this position that he's in, where he's being scrutinised and he's being questioned, and there's a debate on his style and whether he should be at the club, do you think it's right that a defender is coming out that is currently still playing for Tottenham and then talking positive about the old manager? This just seems like it's going to cause tension for me. And I just wanted a different opinion on you. I think this is very poor timing.
I think it is, but it's modern football. That's the problem. Is they're constantly, all of these interviews that they do, you know, post games and random ones they're doing the week like this one, where they're asking questions about 2 seasons ago. It's almost like backing them into a tough position. And I think I think you're right. It is poor timing, but I just don't think anybody thinks about the timing with these things anymore. I think it's about getting the content, and potentially causing the frustration, because causing internal issues for players and man. It feels very toxic. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I just like I said, I wanted your opinion on it because I don't know if maybe I was just looking in too deep, but I don't know. I just didn't really agree with. I think especially the way Frank is at the minute, where he's under a lot of pressure. I don't. I just think it was poor timing, and you shouldn't be coming out and speaking about the previous manager when he leaves the club, or if he retires. 100% do what you want. Or if Frank wasn't there, then
Mhm.
maybe you could start of go into that conversation. But I just, yeah, timing wise, I think it was very poor. But look, I could sit here and talk about Tottenham all day, but I do want to mention Forest were absolutely quality. I think we made them look good, but they were very good to be fair. Sean Dyche just I didn't really see this at a 3-0 from Forest, but yeah, they were quality all over the pitch.
Yeah, they just set up and hit their own advantages. They just did, and this is something you cannot knock Sean Dyche for. Is he knows his way of playing. He has a clear identity, and he executes it well when he's got the players to do it. And this is why I see Forest sort of thriving. And I feel like Sean Dyche, when he got the job, was a bit like, because he's got the players that he, can really thrive with. And, seeing Callum Hudson-Odoi on the score sheet, they're the type of players that you want to excel, because you could argue he could go somewhere else. He could go somewhere bigger. He could go somewhere in Europe and potentially get um, more consistent European football. You know, in my opinion, if you're getting the best out of those type of players, what's the problem? I see so much criticism of managers like Dyche, but at least he knows how he wants to play. Because you look at Frank at Tottenham, and you almost feel it's more respectable having that vision and really going for it.
Yeah, 100%. Should we move on to the next game? Because this was quite a big one, wasn't it? Sunderland 1, Newcastle nil. Was this the first derby since 2016, I believe?
Something like that. Delightful to have it back. Love it.
This is something I was going to say, right? How good is it to have a derby like this in the Premier League? And this is exactly why I want Sunderland to stay up, because we should be having this sort of game in the Premier League. It's box office.
Absolutely. And it's the type of game you cannot predict, because it is about who turns up on the day. And I love it. And I say this about the North London Derby all the time. It is about who turns up on the day. Forget what happened last season, what happened 3 months ago, or what happened last week, even. It is about who turns up, who wants it more. And I knew Sunderland would win. I just had that feeling they would want it more. It, it was almost, and I know Guimaraes has come out since and said that their performance was almost disrespectful to the fans at such a big event. And I know Guimaraes tries really hard to get himself within the culture of the club, and understand the rivalries and things like that. He's shown that time and time again. Um, and I almost get what he's trying to say in terms of they needed to show up. Newcastle needs to put everything on the line, and I just didn't feel like that. But Sunderland did. They just turned up, did what they needed to do, absolutely rode the crowd. Like, the crowd were just, God, if there was one place I wanted to be, forget being at the London Stadium on Sunday, I wanted to be at the Stadium alive. What a place to be when that goal went in. I mean, I know it was an own goal, but who cares? It's just, they're the best type of football matches.
Yeah, I think you've nailed that, to be fair, because it was simply just down to Sunderland wanted it more. Like, I watched the highlights for this game, and it was all Sunderland. Though I think there was one highlight from Newcastle in about the 78th minute. There was a shot from Bruno, but that was about it. And Sunderland just, yeah, they just wanted it more. They had that desire, didn't they? And you have to, I mean, to be fair, they didn't have very far to go, did the Newcastle fans? But if this was a longer trip and Newcastle put in a performance like that, the people would be kicking right off, because you can't be performing like that, especially against your closest rival.
Yeah, and this is when you question, when you hit the heights of, what Newcastle are trying to achieve with the investment and Champions League football. And, when you're trying to hit that, yes, you're getting quality players in, but are you getting players in that really understand the club and understand what that game means? And that would be my frustration as a Newcastle fan, is it almost exposed the players' lack of understanding of how important that game was. Whereas it felt like Sunderland players knew the assignment. They knew exactly what those Sunderland fans wanted. And it was just putting 110% in the whole 90 minutes. I mean, Dan Ballard was up and down like no man's business. Defensively, attacking, he was asking for penalties at one point. It's just the commitment that every Sunderland fan wants.
Yeah, I'm actually just looking here at Newcastle's next game, which is well, they've got Fulham in the cup and then they play Chelsea in the next round of the Premier League. But they need a response, don't they? Because I don't know if you've got to put this down to a one-off. I think for Newcastle because I've not seen them play that bad. To be fair, Sunderland again were quality, but yeah, they need a response in this next game.
Well, Newcastle didn't play great against us and at home. Away from home, they're reasonably poor. And again, they in a sense they're a bit like Tottenham, where maybe not as maybe not as often, but they tend to have off days. And when they have an off day, it's very, very clear. There is such a big gap in the quality. Um, yeah, I mean, I've seen people questioning Eddie Howe the last couple of days. It's if this is the thing with those games is they mean so much. They are three times as important as any other game, and the outcome is three times as analysed as any other game. And I just think Newcastle, you know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because I don't know whether they've got the squad to be aiming for as high as they do. I think, and I'm not saying the fans here. I think a lot of the time the fans are quite level-headed, but obviously there's ambition in the club, and you understand that you want a level of ambition. Whether the ambition is a bit too high at the moment, and they need to slowly make their way into that higher echelon of European football. Yeah, it's a tough one, Newcastle. It's a tough one.
I mean, just before we move on, I just want to say about that. Even though it was an own goal, it was a great header. I think if it was at the other end of the pitch, you know what I mean, you'd be buzzing with something like that. What do you think Sunderland's expectations are now, though, for the season? Because obviously, I think at the start of it, it was just to survive. They've surpassed
Mhm.
that massively. So what now? Is it just enjoy the ride?
Enjoy the ride, aim for that top half finish. Don't set your expectations too high. Don't do that because you'll just be disappointed. Wouldn't it be lovely if they got themselves European football? Honestly, I don't want to see them in Champions League. I don't want to see them at that point because they just wouldn't survive. Realistically, they just wouldn't survive. I'd love to see them nick the Conference League, go and have a European run for a year, give the fans the time of their lives, actually play teams that you could actually beat and get yourself far into the competition. I'd love them to nick something like that. But right now, the aim should just be a top half finish.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is probably another sort of podcast you could speak about, but the Europa Conference League, it was scrutinised quite a bit when this was brought in, but it does give the opportunity of teams like West Ham and maybe Sunderland who could go nick an extra place, and it just gives them that something else to compete for, which is, like you said, a realistic European competition. Because Sunderland could kick into the Europa League, they probably wouldn't survive it, but yeah, this is just like another level that they can go to, and just sort of like an introductory level, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a European trophy at the end of the day, and you've still got to work hard. You've still got to put the sort of work into it, like you're playing in the Champions League, like you're playing in the Europa League. But it's just at your level. It's not at that. The Champions League is just quality. I mean, we just watch it every week, and I just sit and I enjoy what's in front of me. I know West Ham are nowhere near that. I'm not saying they never will be. I'd love to think that investment and time and all that sort of God, I'd love to nick a Champions League spot at some point. It'd be brilliant. But the European nights, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because you are just there on a Thursday night. You're just enjoying the atmosphere. They're the times you remember. I mean, one of the best atmospheres I've experienced at the London Stadium was on a European night. And it was a Europa Conference League night, but it didn't matter at that point. It was a European night and it was the road to, I think it was the quarter final or something. It was magical. And I just feel like every team deserves that moment. And if that's in the Conference League, yes, you're going to have City fans and you're going to have Arsenal fans and, whoever else, Real Madrid, whatever, coming at you saying it's not as big. Oh, who cares? It's a European night. It's a journey. You get to go to different cities. It's a joy. And I would really love to see a fan base like Sunderland get that. I would love it.
Yeah, but that you say about teams like Madrid and stuff sort of looking down on it, but that's what it's designed for, isn't it? It's not designed for these big clubs. And like you said, you'll know yourself, West Ham, that is a competition that they could compete for. We'll come on to it because they're nowhere near competing for any European competitions at the minute. West Ham 2, Villa 3. Just before we do get on to West Ham, because I'm going to let you take the lead there. Villa absolutely flying. 15 wins out of 17 in all competitions. That is mental.
Confidence thing again. Here we go again. It's confidence, and it's not exclusively confidence, but you look at them at the beginning of the season. If you'd have told Villa fans they'd be in this position right now, they would have called you a barefaced liar because they looked down and out a good few months ago. They looked down and out. Lots of people question Emery. It's amazing what stringing a few wins together can push you towards. And the beauty for Villa is they've experienced this before. They know what they're aiming for. They know the heights. They know how to get to those heights. So it's almost been a bit more plain sailing for them, being so low, but then stringing those wins together, actually reaching where they are now. It's probably been a lot smoother because that's what they've been used to the last couple of seasons. It's almost like they're used to it a bit now. And it's just pure resilience. I mean, it's a mentality that is rock solid and is so advantageous in football. And it's amazing when you look at it from a West Ham point of view. What they did at the weekend, I think they've won once at the London Stadium before Sunday. You are going to go into that game thinking that's hanging over you. You are going to, and then we score so early, your heads could so easily drop, and he just doesn't let them. They are just so well drilled. They are just so mentally strong. It's admirable.
Yeah, definitely. I think again, this we spoke last week about Villa maybe competing for the title. I don't think they're gonna do that. I don't think they've got the squad depth for it. But I mean, the smashing top four. As a Tottenham fan, I'm scared to go up against them in the FA Cup. I think they're going to knock us straight out of it. They're still in the Europa competition, so yeah, I think sky's the limit for them at the minute. But on the other hand, West Ham. I mean, it was a great start, wasn't it?
It was an excellent start. It was a shocking start. I barely sat down with my cup of tea. I mean, it was just unbelievable, and what a finish as well. It was. Have you seen the highlights?
Yeah, I watched them just before coming on.
Yeah, I mean that finish from Fernandez is one of those finishes you take for granted when you're watching it. I actually think it was a really tough finish, and I think he took it so well. I love the fact he was on the ball when he was pressing. I loved the press. Almost tempting them into a mistake. Loved that. It was a platform for us to go on and do really well in that game, but sadly we couldn't hold on. And oh God, where do I even start? I mean, I didn't expect anything from this game because it was Villa and they're on form, like we've spoken about, and we are not. We are probably the opposite. At home, we're poor. I think there was there was so little expectation for me. I mean, I texted you my scoreline, didn't I? Early on in the game week, and you went, not much hope then. I'm like, no, literally, no, there is not much hope for me because they're so good. But I think we caught them on a day where we could have taken advantage and we didn't. Villa got themselves back into it. It was a Mavropanos own goal. I'm not going to have a go at Mavropanos. I think he did what the defender should do. It was unlucky. It was a tough one, a real tough one. It was a great ball in. I think it was McGinn who put the ball in. Then all of a sudden we went 2-1 up, and it was a funny one because Juff was going down the left hand side and he put the ball into the box, and I think it hit someone's hand, might have been Matty Cash's hand. And he screamed for a handball, but what I loved was that he didn't let that stop him. He screamed for the handball, let the referee know he was upset, look into it, but then he cracked on, and that meant the ball was put back into the mixer. It was still in play. We were still dangerous. Potts shot the ball. Bowen sort of deflected it into the goal, if you like. Yeah, 2-1 up going into half time. I think we all knew that Villa were going to try and get back into it. I think we all knew that was what was going to, well, we knew it would be the aim, and we knew they had the capability to do it. Um, it was 2-2 very, very early on in that second half. It was a Paqueta mistake. Paqueta frustrated me on Sunday. He did not put enough in. There was very little output from him. Not, it's not intentional, but he just didn't provide enough for me. So at 2-2, I'm thinking in my mind, we're dangerous. The momentum was with us. We could have absolutely scored a third at that point. In my opinion, and I don't even know if it's the majority of West Ham fans' opinions, in my opinion, we should have gone for it. We should have, at that point, it was sort of 65th minute, 60th, 65th minute. That was the point to bring on Callum Wilson. Give those defenders who looked tired, by the way, they did look a bit tired. And this is why, you saying about Villa not going for the title as such, being in that title race. That's about right. They're not at that point. And they look tired. So it was almost like we could take advantage of that, put Wilson on, give them a problem, and we didn't. We didn't change it. For me, it was a straight swap. Well, not a straight swap because it would have changed tactically, but it would have been a Paqueta off for Wilson on for me, and it would have just been a completely different thing for that Villa defence to deal with. And we were dangerous. We had to ride that momentum. Go for the 3 points. What is the problem with going for the 3 points? There was an opportunity. Even if, we'd have gone 3-2 up and it ended 3-3, it still would have been a point. We didn't expect anything from that game. We didn't make those changes. Then it was an excellent finish from Rodgers. It was a screamer. There's no doubt that third goal from Rodgers was a beautiful goal. But we ended up losing the game anyway, not making those changes. And look, he doesn't have much squad depth. I do understand that. But not making those changes, we lost anyway. So why wouldn't you go for it? None of us expected anything from the game. Why not go for it in the 60th minute when the momentum is with you? That's what really frustrated me, because 3 points would have felt like 6 on Sunday. That would have been insane. And I think had we really taken Villa on, we could have cracked them because they were tired. We let them back into that game. We let Unai Emery take control of the second part of that second half and just do what he needed to do to win the game. His substitutions really altered the way that game went. And we should have taken the bull by the horns and made our substitution to actually give them another problem. And as you can tell, I'm very frustrated by it.
Two things I wanted to ask you about, just real quickly before I move on to the Brentford Leeds game. I put up at the end of each game, I'll do a little short and talk about the scoreline and just a couple of little notes on YouTube. So yeah, follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff to keep an eye on them. When I posted the one about West Ham Villa, people were in the comments. Like, I've only seen the highlights to this, so you can obviously tell me a bit more detail. There was people in the comments complaining about the referee. I don't think I got to see the full extent of it on the highlights. Do you want to just mention that?
Yeah, referee was poor. There's no doubt. Anthony Taylor was poor. It felt like every single decision was going for Villa. But I'm not going to sit here and make him the excuse as to why we lost, because he wasn't the reason why we lost. He was poor. I don't know about you, but I don't really expect anything different from Premier League referees these days. And it is what it is at the end of the day. I think it's frustrating. I think he was giving decisions so easily for Villa. It did feel like he wanted that game to go one way and one way only. But I'm not going to sit here and make it an excuse as to why we lost that game.
Yeah, that's fair enough, because I think most fans would. The second thing I wanted to ask real quickly, is Nuno under any pressure?
No. Who do we get in? who do we... Like, I genuinely, no. To keep the man in the job, back him in January. I do not want that, oh God, who's on a free, who's out of contract discussion. I don't want it anymore. I don't want to get... No, look, we are lucky to have Nuno. I am not having that conversation. I feel lucky to have Nuno. I feel like, there is improvement. There absolutely is improvement. I don't know about you, and I keep saying this with claret tinted glasses. We're too good to go down. we're too good. I don't think we should go down. It's just about getting the points on the board. And I do think we made the replacement at the right time because Nuno's got the opportunity to have January. He's got the opportunity to put his changes in place, no matter how long they take. You know, we're still very much on the peripheral of the relegation zone. You know, it can change within a couple of games. I'm definitely not in that headspace. Definitely not.
Yeah, you have got a good enough squad to stay up, I think. Real last one before we move on. In a hypothetical world, Tottenham sack Frank, West Ham sack Nuno. Would you take Thomas Frank at West Ham?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only thing right now that could possibly tempt me. But right now, I just want some stability, Matty. I just want some stability. Honestly, it's horrendous doing what we've done. I mean, even Moyes, there was a level of stability, but towards the end of his time at West Ham, it almost felt inevitable that he was going to go. I haven't felt stable in a long time. I would like Nuno to be in the job for at least a few seasons. Just please.
No, fair enough. Two games remaining. We'll rattle through this next one because there wasn't too much to talk about on this. But Brentford won, Leeds won. There was a penalty overturned for offside, which I wanted to question. I wanted to question this really because so he's offside. Is it not still a foul though? Is the offside the only reason why the penalty wasn't given?
Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was the case of the foul took place when the player was offside, so the player was advantaged anyway. I think that's the view.
So again, obviously, I'm going to take this from a comedic point of view. I'm going to take this to the absolute extreme. If a player was stood offside and I punched him in the face, would that not still be a red card?
Yeah, you're right. And this is where we're at with the rules. This is where we're at. I mean, literally, we talk about the West Ham game. West Ham did have a goal overruled. It was given as offside, but I'm pretty sure it was like his chest or something. Or no, I think it was his forearm or something was offside. Something was offside. And it's just like my brother said to me, but I'm pretty sure he can't score with that. So how is that an advantage? Like, surely it should be his feet. And do you know what? He's got a point. This is the problem with the rules: is they are just you're absolutely bang on. If you did punch somebody in the face and they were offside, it would still be a red card, or at least it should be. I can't even guarantee that that would be given.
No, yeah, it is. Like I said, I know that I'm taking a comedic point of view there, but it is just something to sort of think about. Where you just think that it's just mental. They're not clear enough, are they, on these rules and stuff? But in terms of the game, it was a crucial point for both clubs, really. Both of them are struggling at the minute, and they bounced around that sort of area where West Ham are as well. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 4 goals in 4 consecutive games, flying, isn't he?
Yeah, massive.
I never thought I'd say that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is in form, but he is, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think, and again, I don't mean it disrespectfully. I think he could do potentially a little bit better than Leeds, but he is that type of player where he thrives in a team like Leeds, like and I think they are putting the service into him. He's a decent finisher. He's going to finish it. You put the ball into Calvert Lewin, if it is good enough, you can pretty much guarantee it will be a shot on target, and that is something that I feel like Leeds are getting better at, and that's why he's getting the goals that he's getting. And I actually think Leeds are in a position where they're fortunate to have Calvert Lewin because I think he's a really good player. I've always liked him. Like I said, I think he's clinical. Obviously, he's had peaks and troughs in his career, but this is good. This is good to see. I mean, from a West Ham perspective, I didn't want Leeds to get anything from that game. And I think Brentford should win that game in my eyes. But Leeds did really well to stay in it, then get the equaliser, and to not concede late on because I think there was a bit of a Brentford rush towards the end. But yeah, like you said, it's a great point for both sides. Leeds happier, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Leeds actually look quite good. I was just looking how many points difference they are there between West Ham and Leeds. Is 3 point difference, isn't they? So yeah, if Leeds had won that, that would have raised a few eyebrows, I think, especially from your point of view. But yeah, Calvert Lewin, it's been a running theme for today, hasn't it? But again, it's a confidence thing because when he's not scoring, it affects him quite heavily. He can never. He seems to take a while to get out of that rhythm, but yeah, he got there. He got his first goal in the other week, and he ran with it. Someone else with their first goal, Jordan Henderson. Fantastic, isn't it, to see him back on the score sheet?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of those players that you can't help but like. I think he's for me the two major transfers in midfield from a stability point of view at the latter end of the table. That God, there was conditions to that. Um, were Xhaka and Henderson, and obviously Xhaka hit the ground running and has really thrived at Sunderland. So Henderson's gone a little bit, under the radar, and it was nice to see him get a goal. It was a nice tribute to Jota, I think. And I just think, I like seeing Henderson play well. I like him providing that um, stability for teams who need it. It's that head, it's that Premier League head, and that calmness and that experience that is so valuable in the Premier League.
Yeah, he's just definitely secured his next England call up, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Should we talk about the last game? Because the absolute flyer, what it thrill of a game. Manchester United 4, Bournemouth 4. Now, where do you see this game? Do you see it as an attacking masterclass or defensive woes for both teams?
Oh, I see it as a delight, Matty. I do not want to take it any further. I saw it as an absolute attacking delight. Um, it was mayhem and chaos. I mean, I don't know about you, but as a neutral, those are the types of games you watch football for. I mean, what a game! It was just one. Like, it was just constant. Like I loved it, and you didn't know where it was going to end up. Even with, I think it was 8 minutes added time, could have gone anywhere. Could have gone anywhere. Yes, look, there's defensive issues, of course there is, but I like to highlight where the goals have come from, and I think the one thing I wrote down was in capital letters: Fernandes free kick, delight, absolute delight. I think there was goals I didn't see actually because I was faffing about doing other things. I had sort of had it on while I was doing work at the same time. So there was a couple of goals I didn't see, and I think I did miss a pretty good goal, one of Bournemouth's goals. Um, but yeah, it was just fun. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, and I think one. I mean, there was two great free kicks during that game. To be fair, one at either end of the pitch. But one thing I did want to notice, obviously Bournemouth have been in a bit of a lull recently and had a bit of dip in form. Same with Semenyo. He's had a bit of a dip. He gets on the score sheet. But one thing that I was really happy for Bournemouth with, 4 goals, 4 different goal scorers.
Yes, yes, massive. I think and they were names that you think should be scoring goals for Bournemouth. I wasn't shocked with those goal scorers. I think it was Evan Nilsson, Krupi, Semenyo, and Tavernier, and I think all four of them they should be scoring goals regularly. I know Krupi comes on and he tends to score goals from the bench, and he's a little star and he's one for the future. Yeah, big confidence boost from an attacking sense for Bournemouth. Bit worrying from a defensive perspective.
You could say that about both teams, though, couldn't you, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think United will try to take the positives from that one because 4 goals and not winning the game is crazy. But I think Cunha was brilliant last night. I think he's come into his own. I think Embuemo didn't quite hit it last night, but it was fine because Cunha hit it. And there was points where I was just watching the silky football that Cunha was providing. And I think you can take positives from it. But like you said, it's defensive woes from both sides. And Man United, for me, my concern with Man United this season has been their defence.
Yeah, but, I mean, we talk about the defensive and stuff, though, but you look at Man City, and recently they've had a bit of a lull in defence, but as long as you're outscoring your opponents, it's not a problem. Obviously, on this occasion, they didn't, so that's why it's getting picked up on. But is there going to be a bit of a dip with Man United now? Because obviously they lose Mbumo and is it Ahmad as well to AFCON?
Yeah, I think there's potential for it, but I think it's because it's across the league, and I love the fact that there are AFCON stars shining throughout the league. Um, I think there's going to be a few teams who are really missing some key players. So whether it balances itself out. I'm not sure in terms of who everybody else is missing as well. Cunha coming into form is a massive, massive thing for them if and Buemo's off for however long he's gone for. Um, I think just got to play it by ear. Just got to see how they do without him.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're gonna I think we're gonna agree again this week. But is that your game of the week?
Yes. I really hope you can see my writing. No, you can't. It's blurred because my background's blurred. I literally put game of the week at the bottom of my page. Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, I think we will disagree at one point, but yeah, you can't. To be fair, the last 3 weeks we've done it, the games have just stood out. I think they've been
Yeah,
incredible. That last night, from a neutral point of view, was just unbelievable. And it's what you want in it. It's what you want to watch in the Premier League, especially on a Monday night.
absolutely. I think Monday night football can get slated quite a lot, but that's the type of Monday night entertainment you want. I mean, it's like reality TV. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean that brings us like to the end of the game week, and we're another game week closer to Christmas. So we're looking very positive towards the festive period. But make sure you go like, subscribe, follow, do all them other things that we all like to do. Grace Wild Football on TikTok, innit?
Yeah, TikTok and Instagram on Grace One Football.
Yeah, go follow that because genuinely, I know it's just like a 2 second follow, but it helps way more than you actually know. So yeah, like, subscribe, follow, do all that good stuff, and we will see you next game week.
Goodbye.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.